Welcome to the Making a Mathematician webinar for parents. This webinar is presented by the Special Education Department. Our goal is to provide parents with some strategies and support for helping their children at home in math. My name is Sean Healy. I'm a lead teacher with the Special Education Department. We're going to start off this webinar by discussing what math is. We're then going to talk about some strategies for helping students at home. We're then going to address ways to decrease the anxiety and stress of math learning. And finally, we'll share some resources with you. First of all, mathematics is often defined as the abstract science of number, quantity, and space. An important part of this definition is the word abstract. Much of math learning, especially early on, is a lot of symbols and language that children don't use in their normal everyday life. Abstract thinking is also something we develop as we mature and get older. So many of our younger students will really struggle with the abstract nature of math. Mathematics can be studied in its own right or as it is applied in other disciplines, such as physics and engineering. Most of us learn math in the first way, in its own right, until we get to at least high school. So we learn math kind of by itself, and then as we get into high school, we take classes such as physics, engineering, that use math in their discipline. The major content areas of mathematics are data analysis, algebra, geometry, measurement, and number sense. And when we think about number sense, some of the main areas I suggest people focus on is computation, the vocabulary of math, and also the relationships that exist between numbers. Another important aspect of teaching and learning mathematics is the method of instruction. Many of us as adults learned math in a different way than children are taught nowadays. Children now are expected to apply their mathematics in a variety of different ways. They have to explain what they're doing and show their work. They have to apply the math within word problems and different situations. They're asked to model the mathematics or draw a picture and find other ways to represent the math. So for many of us, it's very different than the way we might have learned when we were children. So the method of instruction is an important aspect to helping your child at home. And finally, the amount of confidence and enjoyment your child gets related to math is very important. Many children, many adults experience a lot of anxiety connected to math. So we'll talk about ways to reduce that anxiety and hopefully make math a little more enjoyable and give your child a little more confidence in class. So here are some strategies for improving mathematics ability and confidence at home. One of my first suggestions is to think of learning math in the same way as learning a language. The more students utilize their math skills and vocabulary, the more confident and capable they will be. Make a conscious effort to make math discovery, practice, and conversation a daily part of life. Many of us don't casually talk about math or do math problems in our normal everyday life. So you really have to make an effort to incorporate math discussion, math learning into your daily lives. Students benefit greatly from discovering math in the real world and seeing you engage with mathematics. Some examples could include counting items at the grocery store, really counting anything, wherever you go really helps. Identifying shapes in the real world, discovering and discussing how math is used in your child's favorite activity. This is very, very important. Showing children how math connects to what they enjoy. And you can really find math in almost any area, whether it's video games or music or sports. You can find lessons and activities related to that favorite activity that connect it with mathematics. Measuring everything and anything. Discussing the probability when playing a game with dice. Playing a fun math game together as a family. There's a variety of different ways you can incorporate math into your daily life, and the more your students practice, the better off they will be. Another important aspect of helping our children at home is getting them to practice their math as often as possible. Learning math is similar to learning to play an instrument, learning a new language, or playing a sport. The best way to improve is to practice what you learn as often as possible. To help our children develop their math ability, ask them to utilize their math learning frequently and on a regular basis. Make practice fun, concrete, and consistent. Balance play and practice. So if your children have been in school all day, they're working hard, they do all their homework, they're doing a great job, rather than have them practice another 50 math problems, maybe play a fun math game with them, or they can play a fun math game with their brothers and sisters or their friends. So they're still practicing their math, but hopefully in a very fun, enjoyable way. Estimate, count, and measure everything. Make these activities part of your daily life. So when you're at the grocery store, when you're at home, when you go to a friend's house, wherever they go, have them estimate, count, or measure something. Practice the basics until mastered. So rather than having your child stress over a very difficult problem that's very frustrating and very challenging, let them practice their basic skills, let them have some experience of success, and then build upon those basic skills. So make it more and more challenging as they master the basic skill. Also, include your child in your activities that use math. So for example, maybe when you go to the grocery store, have them calculate or estimate the cost of your groceries before you get to the register. Again, them seeing math in real life, them seeing how you use math is really beneficial for your child. Now we're going to focus on some different activities you can do with your child in the different major areas of mathematics. The first area I'm going to focus on is number sense. When helping a teacher or a parent with a child who struggles in math, what I often suggest they focus on first is basic number sense. Students with a strong foundation in number sense will really benefit in the other areas of mathematics, geometry, algebra, those kind of things. Conversely, students who struggle with basic number sense, who don't have an understanding of basic numbers, their relationships, and how they compare, really are going to struggle in all the other areas of mathematics, data analysis, algebra, and geometry. So we really want to build up their basic number sense, the relationship between the numbers, in order to build that strong foundation. So as I mentioned before, you want to count everything. Have them use numbers as often as possible. Sing and create counting songs and books. Finding numbers around your home, neighborhood, and in the child's favorite activities are very, very important. Also discussing those numbers. So comparing how the numbers relate to each other, which one's bigger and smaller, finding some of the other relationships within the numbers. For example, it takes 5 2s to make a 10. It takes 2 5s to make a 10. Again, discovering some of those relationships are very, very important. Having the students draw and model the numbers. As I said before, in mathematics nowadays, children are being asked to model the numbers on their assessments or to prove their understanding in ways that many of us as adults were not asked to do when we were younger. Solving simple problems with computation and also talking about numbers as often as possible. In the area of geometry, you want to try to find shapes at home, in your neighborhood, in the environment. Again, discuss those shapes. Compare how they're different, how are they the same. Labeling shapes and size. Using words that describe position. For example, over, under, next to, between, above, behind. Okay, encouraging your child, especially when they're little, to climb in, out, under, over, and around things to develop a sense of space. These are kind of the building blocks for a basic understanding of geometry. Also things like direction, using direction words like forward, backward, up and down, or distance words like near, close, and far. Again, this is the beginning of geometry, and it will then build to the more technical words for things like distance, like inch and foot and mile, but it all starts here with a very basic sense of space. Having your children build structures with blocks or boxes or other building materials. Having your children use tangrams or other polygon blocks to make patterns, discover relationships, and create pictures. There are a lot of great activities and toys out there to encourage your students to build and to really use the shapes. In the area of measurement, once again, measure everything. Make your children measure something every day. Measure at least one thing every day, using both conventional and unconventional units of measure. So it doesn't always have to be using a ruler or using centimeters and inches and those kind of things. They can estimate and use very unconventional units of measure just so they start to understand the basics of measurement and space. So for example, measuring the distance from one wall to another wall in a room using books, for example. Or how many spoons does it take to go from one side of the kitchen table to the other side of the kitchen table? Another activity you can do is organize and compare household items by length, weight, and capacity. Include your child in activities that involve measuring. Okay, so let's say you're you're getting new furniture and you're measuring the size of the living room. Include your child in those activities, and also make sure you talk about time. A lot of our children are used to digital clocks, so they don't always have a lot of experience using the older, more traditional clock. So make sure you talk about time and how to read a clock. The final aspect of helping your child at home that I want to discuss is reducing the anxiety and encouraging confidence and enjoyment. Many people, including very, very smart adults, experience a great deal of math anxiety when faced with a new problem. But being fearful or stressed about math hurts a person's ability to learn and be successful. So here are a few tips for reducing math anxiety. Encourage your children to value a mistake. Making mistakes and getting problems wrong are an essential part of learning math. Rather than getting upset, angry, or disappointed at a mistake, say, yes, we have learned a way that does not work to solve the problem. Now we get to try a different way. It's very important our children value a mistake and still feel confident in themselves despite making a mistake. Making mistakes are an important part of how we learn math. Reassure your children that they are not alone when they don't understand the math concept. Students often feel isolated and embarrassed when they don't understand something. When people they respect, like yourself, share their struggles, it reduces the anxiety and encourages hope that they will be able to understand eventually. Now, I understand that many adults, many of you, may not love math and may have your own anxiety related to mathematics. But please try your best not to hate math in front of your child. If you hate math, or if you say things like, oh, I never use math in my real life, or anything like that, your child may adopt the same attitude and may never give themselves a chance to have success and enjoy the subject. If they love and respect you, they may adopt some of the same attitudes. So as much as you might, not love math, or it might not be your favorite subject, or you might have had a tough time growing up with math, do your best not to hate math in front of your child so they can have their own experience and hopefully enjoy the subject and have some success. And finally, practice the basics. Math learning builds upon itself. If a student cannot add well, multiplication will be very difficult. If a student cannot multiply well, division, fractions, and algebra will be very confusing. A strong foundation in the basic skills will promote greater success and confidence. Here are just some final quick tips for ways to reduce math anxiety. Many of them I've mentioned before. Encourage your children to ask questions. It's actually a sign of strength to ask questions, and there's probably other children in the class with the same question who might be a little more timid about saying something. Overcome negative self-talk. So a lot of our children very, very quickly start to feel like they can't do it. They'll never be able to do math. They feel they'll never be able to have success and feel comfortable with mathematics. We want to develop a positive attitude as much as possible and encourage them to understand that they're not alone when they struggle with math, but if they continue to work hard, eventually they will be able to get it. Reading all the directions, knowing the basics, as I mentioned before, and using different resources. There are a variety of very good resources on the internet for everything, like things like YouTube that will show videos and those kind of things, to Khan Academy, to other great websites that give the children opportunities to practice, or other sites that may reteach them a certain math skill. Related to that, we've shared two resources here with you. The first one is the Jersey City Board of Ed website at jcboe.org. The Special Education Department has a variety of resources there for you, including this webinar. And then the district as a whole has many great resources for parents on the Jersey City Board of Ed website. And then I've shared another site for you, the scholastic.com site. From here, there are a lot of links kind of in different directions based on the needs of your child and what you're studying at the time. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and have a great day.